Jennifer Chavez. She's the president and managing director of Global Recruiters of Moon Valley.
Oh my gosh, your messages were so funny. I was just really busy. I really wanted to respond to you, but I didn't.
On the contract side, typically, what is a red flag?
As a leader in a large Fortune company, I know how it works when you bring on your employees. If you don't onboard them in the first 90 days, you're going to have an incredible turnover.
Part of what we do doing onboarding as well internally is part of the biggest challenge with AI is data security. And it's scary how quickly you expose so much confidential data.
Take the leap. What is the worst that can happen? And you find so much amazing support along the way, as well as qualities within yourself that you didn't maybe know you had.
Welcome to Humans of Staffing by Work Now. Today, our guest is Jennifer Chavez. She's the president and managing director of Global Recruiters of Moon Valley. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, as you know, we had to re-record this, so we might have to start the verbatim all over again.
No worries.
Jennifer, tell us about your journey and what you do today, and
Sure.
And move forward. Let's see.
Yes, absolutely. So I had a 23-year career with a little company called CVS Health, and was an executive for them, and then found myself in the situation that many of my colleagues have over time, and they had a corporate layoff, and I had to make a decision about what did I want to do next with my life. And so I did take some time to do some soul searching and really try to figure that out, what lit my fire and what was I passionate about. And I ended up buying a recruiting franchise. And the reason that I did that was really because it brought together all of the skills and expertise that I had always done, primarily for volunteer work and a lot of my career. And really just was something that I knew that I would be really great at and could find both clients and candidates that I think that my expertise and experience would really help. So I've been able to get my own franchise and become president and learn how to become a small business owner after a corporate career. So bringing those two things together has just been amazing. And it's given me the flexibility that I've wanted in my life for a long time, and the ability to do things that also are pretty exciting, to be able to see myself be able to build a business. So that's been pretty cool.
All right, Jennifer. So someone in similar circumstances, what you had experienced, from a corporate to starting your own business, if they're going through something very similar, what advice would you have for them in terms of what they're thinking they will be expecting versus what's the reality that you faced?
Sure. It's a great question. And I think I was really scared and still am sometimes, but, making the leap and making that decision, I've just been able to really be impressed with myself that I've been able to overcome all of those challenges. And I guess what I would say is take the leap. What is the worst that can happen? And you find so much amazing support along the way, as well as qualities within yourself that you didn't maybe know you had. And so it's fun to be able to do something new and different and challenging that I wasn't sure if I could do, but believed in myself enough to know that I could, and I did, and I am. And so you can too. And I would be more than happy to talk with anybody who has any thoughts about maybe wanting to do something like that, and would certainly be able to lend any of my thoughts and experience.
Jennifer, one of the things that when you do start coming from CVS, right, you've got a brand to represent. Every candidate is willing to talk to you, right? And then you remove that, and suddenly it's Jennifer and your franchise wanting to find the same individuals. Were there some surprises there where some individuals would just still not talk to you, or others who said, oh my God, I'm here to support you? Which of the sides? Because as a corporate veil, when you have that veil on you, just like they say, what are kings when there are no kingdoms, right? Hence, the power of being behind a brand is very different than when you go out by yourself looking for that support. Where were some of the surprises in that? Or they were none and you're like, nope, didn't make a difference?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I did leverage a lot of AI tools and did a lot of experimentation to just try to find out how to get people's attention, because that's the thing, right? You got to get their attention. You are small. I'm not CVS anymore. I'm Jennifer Chavez, GRN Min Valley. And so, it doesn't always carry the same panache or recognition. People immediately recognize CVS. But I do think some of that brand definitely translates over. People would look at my profile and see the things that I did and would know that I had a long-term career and a lot of success at a single company, and says something about you, I guess. So people would be willing to talk to me, I guess, maybe sometimes because of that experience. But I honestly think that it has way more to do with my persistency, because I don't give up. And I would just go back to people with funny messages and things that would make them laugh. And they loved that. And I had so many people respond to me, which that was what I really didn't expect. I thought I was bugging people, and I sort of felt bad. Like I kept reaching out to them. They're like, I promise this is going to work. And when I finally did, and I'd get a hold of people, and I'd get them on the phone, they were like, oh my gosh, like your messages were so funny. I was just really busy. I really wanted to respond to you, but I didn't. I had so many people that were just so great and so responsive and gladly spent their time with me on a Zoom or on a phone call, just because I asked them to network with me. And so I have had very, very few people ever tell me no or not respond to me. I've had really great response rates. And that's, I think, just because I try to just be as, congenial as I can be and as funny as I can be to get their attention. But when they talk to me, I have substance and I have something to say. And people usually enjoy their conversation with me. So I usually continue the conversation.
Now, Jennifer, how long before the momentum picked up for you? I mean, so let's say you started Monday morning. Was it 3 months, 6 months, a year before you started getting those responses, your first placement and so forth?
Well, it might be a little bit unusual. I talked to my first placement, my client in training. So, it didn't happen. The placement didn't happen in training, but the contract did. And so that was really, in a completely different industry and, adjacent related. It was in actually senior healthcare. So it was just kind of one of those things where because I think I'm just persistent and I talk to people and I didn't give up. Sometimes it's a numbers game, but it's also just being a good person, being fun to talk to. People are, you have to have a pattern interrupt, a way to get somebody's attention. And once you do, sometimes, it's nice. People are doing a lot of other not so fun things during their day. So if they have a fun conversation with somebody that makes them laugh, it's going to be an enjoyable part of their day and they might take a minute to talk to you.
On your side, you have two kind of customers to work with, right? One is the candidate you're trying to sell to, that this is the right position for you. And on the other side, of course, you're trying to get the contracts. Let's talk on the contract side first, and we'll get to the candidates later. On the contract side, typically, what is a red flag that one should always watch out for? So I'll give you an example. You'll have sometimes a client wants they'll give you 30 days to fill a position, but they need a 1 year, I'm just giving unreasonable terms, a 1 year guarantee that individual cannot change. Otherwise, my money back and you're going to do this. What are typically the guidelines one should really look at to make sure that that's not beyond the norm, or it should be a win-win successful situation? Because a lot of the times you're doing it for free. And
Right.
It's based on success. If you don't succeed and they change their mind, you could have spent 2 to 3 months on that.
Yeah, I always strike a reasonable balance between the risk on both sides. And, there's a time component and there's a risk versus reward. And there's a point in time at which, as a leader in a large Fortune company, I know how it works when you bring on your employees. If you don't onboard them in the first 90 days, you're going to have an incredible turnover. I worked in a call center. So I had the highest call center, turnover when I first started, and slowly chipped away at that by, a lot of policies and procedures and things we put in place to change that. But primarily, you really have to just look at how, each party is going to come to the table. That's why I want to pick the clients that I work with. I am going to work hard for you, and I'm going to be out there searching for talent all of the time. And once you're my client, I'm always going to be looking for talent for you, and I'm going to find the best for you. And there's a lot of other things that come with that. But the time that goes into that, I might have to source through hundreds and hundreds of candidates to find you a short list of 5 or 6 people that are amazing. And once I've already done that, really all your job should be is to say, is this person a good fit? You should already know that I'm going to bring you people to the table that are eminently qualified, that you should be able to pick from any of them and find somebody amazing. You're just looking for the right fit. And so that process, there's a lot that goes into that. And so I don't have any contracts where I pay people back. It's my time and my investment is up front. And so if I will find a replacement candidate for you if that person doesn't work out, but I'm going to give you a lot of choices up front, and I'm going to give you all qualified people. So if that person doesn't work out, there's probably somebody waiting in the wings that we have ready to go. So it's going to be hopefully a non-issue, but it depends on the timing. And it depends on what I always encourage my clients to put in great onboarding and retention tools. And I start it with my recruiting process. I always give a gift on the first day that brings people together. So the whole team is invested in that person's first day, gets to know that person, has a positive experience. The person has a positive experience. They have an onboarding plan. What's your plan for this person when they come on board? Do you have a training plan in place? I try to ask my clients those questions to make sure that if they haven't thought through those things, that's all part of keeping somebody. Their first impression, their first experience with you is important, and it's going to be lasting. I always remember my first day with CVS Health, and it was a great experience. And so I take that with me. And it was because I had a great leader who gave me a great onboarding experience. And I stayed there for 23 years. So, it says something.
Yeah, Jeffrey, my question is more on the technology front. How often or are you being asked now with every request that's coming in to recruit a candidate that AI be part of their skill set or some sort of AI knowledge? Has that started at all on your side?
It depends on the job. I think there are a lot of jobs in manufacturing where not every person is necessarily using AI. They might be using AI as an organization, or they might be using it in some of their tools, but they don't necessarily, not all the jobs necessarily have that. But there are some that do. In healthcare, there's a lot of AI tools and a lot of AI that people have access to every day. There's a lot of considerations. And so I think most often big companies already have kind of their own policies and procedures. Little companies, most of them haven't figured that out yet, or are trying to get their arms around it and even how they may be using it as an organization. So I find people every day that haven't used AI at all. So, there's a big spectrum, I think, out there. But I do think companies are starting to recognize that there needs to be limitations and policies around it for their own and their employees' own protection. But it's definitely something that can have a lot of positive as well and can be used. And I have a lot of friends out there that publish their tools and things that they do to kind of encourage it and to get people comfortable with it and learn how to use it, because it is a tool that if you have a little bit of knowledge about how to use it better, you get better results.
And that's very interesting, because what we've learned and part of what we do doing onboarding as well internally is part of the biggest challenge with AI is data security. So you'll have a team of, let's say, 5, 8, 10 individuals. Some of them are using it, some of them are not. First, you've got to bring them to that benchmark.
Yeah.
Once you do bring them to that benchmark, most users don't understand the type of data that you're sharing with all the LLMs out there, whether that's Claude, whether it's ChatGPT. And I think that is one of the areas that we're very strict on in terms of training employees on the AI usage. And I think that's one area on an onboarding and training perspective that the industry really needs, regardless of the industry you're in.
Yeah.
If you're onboarding somebody today and you do not have an AI policy that not only outlines the guardrails, but has a dedicated individual within your company that is showing you what the guardrails are. Because I play with these tools all day long, and it's scary how quickly you expose so much confidential data there. And I think there's a need for that across the board.
Yes, I completely agree. And having come from healthcare, it's just like HIPAA. And so they already have a framework and a structure in healthcare to deal with that exact kind of thing. So I think that's fortunate for healthcare companies because they can probably tag that on to part of their data security because HIPAA has to be addressed with AI for sure. I think a lot of other companies maybe could take a page from the HIPAA model and say this is as important, if not more, than, it's one piece of it, like it's that your, personal health information or your personal information, but it also goes way beyond that and the security of so much more than just confidential company information, individuals, even your own proprietary work or things. You have to just be thoughtful about everything that you do.
Absolutely.
Jennifer, on the same vein, for example, have your clients, you're saying some jobs in HIPAA. Is it more HIPAA or is it more logistics? Are those the two fields that you find, you recruit for? Are you beginning to have candidates even ask, does this role require more AI? Should I do something in that regard? Are you getting more concerned? Because all we hear in the media is that jobs will be gone. If you don't know AI, your history, you're toast. Are you getting that more of a concern from the candidate side?
Yeah, I'm hearing it. Right now, I'm hearing it more from the candidates. I think it's a worry. There are some people who've been impacted. I have a brother-in-law whose job was eliminated by a big automotive company due to AI. And, so it's people have lost their jobs. So it has happened. But it isn't because they don't know AI. It's just that in that particular case, their job function was replaced by, a technology tool. But I do think that is coming. And I think, there's a lot of people who still even struggle with other types of, tools. But I think AI makes it a little bit easier, but only if you're comfortable with it and only if you know how to use it and only if you're using it the way your company wants you to. So there's a lot. Training is just such an important component of everything. But companies first have to understand it themselves and, take a position on it and figure out what their position is and then figure out how to communicate it and train on it and enforce it. And those are always the hard things because you're dealing with people. So you got to just make sure that, there's a lot of energy and focus on that. And the importance of it and the risk is understood. And I think, those are things that I think about on a regular basis on behalf of my clients. But I think some of the jobs that I'm working with aren't, if you're a mechanical engineer, you're probably using technology that may already include that, but it's behind the scenes for them. The way they're using it is maybe a little bit different, but it's probably made their job easier in some cases.
Which job is still the most in demand? If today you had to advise someone that, listen, I'm constantly looking for this role. Hey, kid, go get this degree or go get trained in that, right? What's the most in demand even still on your side that you feel, gosh, I can?
The trades, people are retiring and, en masse. And there's not enough people to take over those skilled jobs that they don't teach in school. A lot of them have to be learned on the job, or they used to have programs for them and they don't so much anymore. And so because of that, they don't have as many people. So, there's always going to be AI or other things that are going to be able to do some things, but maybe someday a robot will be able to fix your car. I'm sure that's coming, but we're not there yet. But, so until then, you need somebody who can turn the wrench and understand how, the combustion engine works versus, the push the button technology now. We still have cars out there that need mechanics. So anyway, I think, that's what I'm hearing is en masse. Everybody, we just went to a shop floor social, and I heard from several manufacturing companies that all of their needs were related to people and pipeline.
When you say people and pipeline, that means where they need actually hard skills to be able to, do physical work that requires a skill, like more mechanical, versus someone who has a degree that may just do analysis for that matter.
Yeah, like a CNC machinist or something. And
Oh,
a lot of the companies will train them on that work and will provide the training, but it's even just finding people who know about it, who want to do it, who are willing to try it, or willing to take the training. So it's really, I think, some of it's marketing. A lot of semiconductor and the big industries get a lot of attention. 80% of our businesses in Arizona are small businesses in manufacturing, and they're like these little small machine shops and things that struggle finding talent and people.
go figure what may have been the wave in the last 20, 25 years of trying to get computer programmers now is switched on the other side completely, which is great because everybody gets an opportunity to do
Yeah,
that.
the computer programmers are having trouble finding jobs, and they can't find enough people in the machine shops.
Yes. Back in the 90s, when I was in staffing, CNC machine operator was like all these kids went to these trade schools and they would come out and you just recruited them. And they loved being in a shop. They loved getting dirty. They loved looking at, all the things that went. Now, in Arizona, on your side, I know a lot of big chip manufacturers are coming. Have any come online yet to where it's become a need yet? For example, TSMC, right? All of those are coming. What's growing in that area right now? What's the number one, number two, demand?
Yes, advanced manufacturing, I think in general is the sort of blanket that includes, I would say, med device. It includes semiconductor manufacturing. Biotech is really big. And so I think those are really, I would say, the top three areas where they're really focusing on trying to encourage growth in Phoenix and Arizona in particular. And I know the City of Phoenix is also working to try to help work with industry to kind of build some talent pipelines, especially for like semiconductor and things like that, to help them get more people trained and ready.
I think that's where the opportunity is, right? It's just the training and upskilling of all these individuals. It's just,
Right.
like you said, you can't even find individuals now who have the desire to do this and want to do this. I mean, that's where
And I think they don't understand what it is or what it's about. And I think that sometimes it's a lack of knowledge. I think, and sometimes they don't necessarily see the long term or the career. And so that's a lot of times where I come in on, when I'm hiring more entry level people, is really talking with them about that long term look and view. I have kids that are in the 20s age range, and I'm trying to encourage them to go into trades for a long-term view on their career. It can be not only very lucrative, but great companies, and there's such a need. Like, what are you going to go into that AI is going to replace versus going into something that I have a lot of clean air companies that work with dust collection, air filtration and things like that. And clean air is going to be a big thing for a long time. So that's a good industry to go in if anybody's wondering.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's such a pleasure to meet you, and all the best from our end.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, Jennifer. Thank you.